All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Forza Tandem session, featuring myself, the captain, along with Hibino86.
Hello again.
I could hear the excitement as you get ready for another episode talking about the interesting events that transpired at the Formula Drift events. We were fortunately out in a little hiatus, but we're back, and we're going to go over some quickly regarding the previous event in Seattle. Uh, Run
hmm
through that, and then we're going to jump right into the last event, which is St. Louis. But first, let's talk about the vehicles we're driving. And Hibino, tell us about the vehicle you're in currently.
Well, this is James Deane's drift car, and I just got. Why is it that something always interesting happens when I'm explaining my car?
Oh no.
Anyway, I'm gonna just park it on this side here.
Yeah.
So this is James Deane's vehicle. The paint job is from last year, but it looks identical to this year. I think. I don't think there's any changes. Unfortunately, in Forza, we don't have any good 7-spoke wheels, so we just went with the 5 double-spoke wheels that they were using in the 2017 season.
Hmm.
Uh, Not much to say. Unfortunately, they don't have 2Js in this game, so we have to run RB26s. But they feel good. They feel good to slide, so, it's a good car.
Cool. And I will be running the Candyman's the Candyman's vehicle, which looks identical
It's
to
me,
the
the candy.
uh, it looks almost identical, with the difference being obviously with the roof, but same setup, practically same paint job. Uh, so what Hibino86 said, but just actually, I take it back. One thing that obviously cannot be recreated is the right-hand drive to left-hand drive differences between both of the vehicles. James Deane runs on
No,
the
that's
right,
right.
and Mr. Pieta runs on the left. So just
That
imagine,
is true.
just imagine Peter just on the other side of the driver's seat. But in any case, let's get this started. So,
That's
starting off, we're in Fortune Island, driving the infamous mountain road, which is always fun, even though the Lego Champions expansion pack has been released. But this is it always feels good to come back to this and hit up the mountain. But first things first,
yep.
Seattle. And one of the main things we want to talk about is the I want to say controversy, but the shenanigans that unfolded when Frederick Aasbo was battling James Deane, and it just so happens that after their first run, it seemed like Aasbo got a little carried away and proceeded to hit James Deane after the finish line, after the run had finished, which in
Yep.
turn
Which is, yeah.
Caused both vehicles to sustain damage, and it got them to, well, it got one of the drivers eliminated, I'll tell you that much. But Hibino, maybe you could dive deeper into what happened. Your thoughts?
Well, it's almost as if he forgot how far back the finish line was, and he was just still going for his door, for James's door. And yeah, and it caused some damage up front. and not that they were already having the greatest weekend either, due to the fact that they had blown a motor the previous day. Still got it swapped out within an hour so he could run his second qualifying
That's right.
run.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, which was nuts. But of course, it's Stefan Papadakis and his team, so probably, yeah, they are the best team in drifting. But either way, so I mean, what happened there? What the judges ended up deciding was that it was Aasbo's fault, and which was pretty clear that it was, and they gave him an incomplete run, even though it was something that happened after the finish line. So that obviously gave James Deane a huge advantage, and on James's I kind of messed up there. James's chase run, he didn't let up. He stuck it to Aasbo's door. You know, it didn't even matter if he did have that huge advantage. He put on a show either way, and of course got the win. Now, the thing about that battle is when it happened, it was a top 16 battle, and James, I believe at the time, was in 5th or 6th place. I think he was in 5th place in the championship. So obviously, you know, this was an opportunity he had to capitalize on, because it's you know, he could really move up a lot, considering that Aasbo was knocked out in the top 16. That's a lot of rounds that he's going to be missing out on. So it shaped up the championship standings. After that point, it kind of rearranged things a little bit. But before we get to that part, to the championship standings, there were other things at that event that I believe need to be discussed. So go ahead.
Just to add, just to quickly add, the judges not only decided on who was at fault, they also decided to create a new rule. This was after they already created a rule from Atlanta on who would be deemed at fault near the finish line. So it seems like this new rule sort of kind of further clarifies some things that they've been having some issues with regarding the events happening at the finish line, which I guess is a good thing, because obviously you want to make things clear to people so that way they don't try to sort of pull any sort of shenanigans. But at the same time, it's crazy to think that judges having to come up with these crazy rules because of these. I mean, them having to come up with these rules for these crazy situations that they get themselves involved with, and I just can't imagine the headaches that the judges have been having to go through to sit down and be like, well, this person's hood popped open. Now we gotta create a rule to sort of clarify, okay, who would be deemed at fault, or oh, this person's wheel fell out. Now we gotta worry about who would be at fault, or this person's GoPro fell out, knocked the driver's helmet away from his head, and caused an accident. Who's gonna be deemed at fault? I don't know. That's just an example.
Yep.
Of some of the absurdities that I'm sure that they would need to encounter.
Well, and we need to remember, you know, drifting is a relatively new motorsport compared to everything else. We still haven't seen every situation yet, especially considering that, you know, most of the seasons that have been run already are, you know, 6, 7, 8 events a year. So it's not like they run a lot, and so the situations have been coming up slowly, where they have to come up with new rules. And we're going to see some stuff in the future where we're going to be like, whoa, that's never happened before. There needs to be a rule about that. So, yeah, it's kind of weird when things happen after the finish line, because it's like, wow, should we really look into that or but then it became a problem where it was like there was damage to somebody's car and
Yeah.
not allowing them to run after that.
Oh,
So, oh, okay. Butt
oops.
bump.
Yeah.
What's that noise? So I think somebody's trying to get up the hill there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna see some stuff coming up in the future. I mean, I don't know what it's gonna be, and they're gonna have to come up with new rules for it. So,
Yeah. We'll see what happens. But we'll definitely discuss it. But the Aasbo one was definitely something that was a real head scratcher. You really caused yourself to just shake your head, SMH, and
yeah,
and just wonder like what the heck was going on through his mind. I mean, whatever. That's in the past. The other part that was definitely scandalous, and it was definitely scandalous. What happened? The battle between Chris Forsberg and Chelsea Denofa. Now,
right,
uh, before it even got to the point where the the replay sort of kind of like displayed some discrepancies in the way how Forsberg was driving, I could almost immediately tell that that was just something off. Like I already knew something was going to happen because I know Chelsea is an aggressive driver. He is not going to let up. He's not going to try to sort of put any sort of distance between the driver ahead of him. And Chelsea had an advantage going into the second run. So,
oh yeah, his lead run was unreal.
yeah.
As he's always been driving throughout the whole year.
Yeah. So I kind of expected something to happen. What I didn't expect was one for something to happen because again, I was just like, really, there's no way. But I guess expectations can be subverted. And second, just the way how it was done, I was just like, wow, that's just one, crazy to think that that happened, and two, and as Hibino 86 was kind of freaking out about it, I was telling him, it's like, well, it's in racing, you have these people trying to come up, doing these strategies, playing these mind games, these tactics to throw the other driver off, and in many ways, I'm not surprised by what Forsberg did, and it got him, as sketchy and shady as it may be. Obviously, it got him what he set out to accomplish. But
right.
Go ahead.
Know. Well, my whole problem with it is that especially ever since a year or two back, when the judges came up with the acceleration and deceleration map, well, we all know that where the incident happened was in an area of the track where the judges expected the drivers to be at full throttle, or at least accelerating the car, even if it's partial throttle. But the thing is that it wasn't full throttle. It almost looked like a handbrake grab with how slow the rear wheels were rotating. And then as soon as the hit happened, you see Forsberg just drop the clutch and just start spinning the tires out of there. And it was dirty on Forsberg's part, and I feel like, and I don't want to call anybody out like this, but the truth is that the judges should have seen exactly what happened there, because we weren't the only ones saying the things that we're saying now.
Yeah.
Everybody noticed that Forsberg was not on throttle.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just it was ugly. It was an ugly way for Forsberg to win, or Chris Forsberg. I wouldn't be very proud of it. Uh, but you know, you know, as I always say, it's like, man, Chelsea has this luck about running into situations. You know, and yes, I am biased towards Chelsea, but I'm also looking at, you know, how unfair it's been for him, you know, lately. And you know, hopefully we'll see some better results in Texas, but we're not at that point yet. But the whole point of it is like, I want to see the judges be a little more assertive on their XL decel map, and a little more assertive in any situation, which we're going to touch on that point later on anyway, because, well, you guys will hear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very frustrating when you come across an issue that is so blatant, and it becomes very aggravating when the people in charge sorry, I just had to laugh at that because right now Hibino86 is at an airport. Why he's there, that's for another story. But going back to the issue at hand, it's just aggravating talking about well, just seeing something so blatant, and then the people in charge just not doing not reacting to it the way that you expect them to. I mean,
exactly.
There was so many replays. They have so many cameras, and they saw it more than once. It was obvious. It was crazy, like stupidly obvious, and it's just like, and their explanation was just like, no. It's I wouldn't say it was almost as bad as what happened with Gittin and Ken Gushi, where Gittin tried to explain that, hey, I let off because I didn't want to plow into Ken Gushi as he was going off the track.
Right.
Where there was some sort of like gray area where like you could make arguments on both sides of the fence, but this is just, come on, this is obvious.
Yeah, this is very obvious. And on touching on the Von Gittin situation, yes, it sucked what happened. The reason why he decided to spin out was so he wouldn't cause an accident. But the problem is like, intentions are very hard to read out, you know, from outside the car. But I mean, I do want to side with Vaughn on in that situation, because he was looking out for his own safety, the safety of Ken Gushi, and, you know, and also help keep the show running, because if you would imagine an accident with the way it was about to happen, that was going to take forever to clean up. So
yeah, but
and then the judges have to decide what happened and whatever, and it's a whole mess.
Yeah, but I could see, but see that one for me, like I felt like in many ways, like there's the argument could have been, like the decision could have gone both ways, because yeah, to some it seemed like getting over rotated on his own. But it wasn't until Gittin made his explanation that it's like, oh, okay, I can see that argument. So obviously, when you have an explanation, it could sort of change. No, I want to say that, but obviously, you know, change your conclusion on the matter. But how the heck do you explain what happened with Forsberg? I mean, come on.
I mean, the explanation is very easy. Forsberg just checked up on on Chelsea, and well, I mean the judges. I don't know if they saw it correctly or they saw what they wanted to see.
Well, but let
But
me ask you this: if you're Chelsea Denofa, right, and you have the driver in front doing what Forsberg did, how do you contest that? How do you protest against that? What do you say? What do you do?
I mean, the only other thing you can do at that point is go up to the judges, and show them the replay again. Hey, look, pay attention. This is what happened. But then again, it's almost seems like the judges don't even want to be bothered, because the situation that happened with Von Gittin went up to the judges stand, and he was confronted by
Robbie
Nishida. Yeah, which is now acting as a driver's steward. And I
heard a liaison.
A liaison. Yeah, you can say that. But I mean, it's almost as if the word didn't get to the judges. You know, and that's very frustrating. So even if Chelsea didn't want to protest, is he going to be hurt? Is it gonna be a successful result for him? I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like some things have to change regarding, you know, communication between drivers and judges and you know, all the people who help run the events. You know, as far as, you know, helping getting the correct calls, and I don't know. It was disappointing. As a Chelsea fan, very disappointing. You know, as a fan of the sport, it was disheartening as well, you know.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, I like watching this stuff, and then having to hear people say, oh, I can't stand watching it. It's like, oh, man, it sucks. You know, the one thing I really like watching is people hate on it, you know?
Yeah.
So...
Well, on the bright side, at least it made for some amusing content from Formula Derp.
Oh yeah, Formula Derp never skips a beat. So, as we saw with this weekend. But
let's wrap up St. Louis and talk about the final battle involving the Worthouse drivers.
Seattle?
Oh yeah, sorry, Seattle. Whoops. Just,
it's all good.
Yeah, that would have been a bad jump.
Yeah, yeah. The Worthouse battle in St. Louis wasn't as epic. Although it was pretty crazy though. But either way, wow. I mean, what a final, huh? I mean, Peter Visick versus James Deane, identical cars, teammates. You know, it was unreal to watch. I mean, they both went at it so hard. I mean, they gave it everything, and it was exactly what we watched drifting for. You know, you know, just to watch two drivers go at it as hard as they can and put on a show. And that's what they did. I mean, especially Peter Visick. I mean, he was so aggressive. He wanted that win, you know. I
think he was really pushing for the win, so that way he could buy candy for his public schools back home.
Well,
I mean, it's back to school season, so obviously kids are gonna need supplies, and what better way to supply them than with candy?
Of course, to have energy to do their homework, I guess, or whatever.
Yes, do the schoolwork, because obviously they stay up late playing Forza, thinking about being their hero, Pieta. They too want to be Candyman.
Yeah. But back on a serious note, yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome to watch. I mean, I just, and the result, kind of kept James Deane a little bit away from Frederick Aasbo. Although at the end of the day, it was only 28 points behind. But yeah, I mean, what a result. So yes, that means that James Deane made it all the way to the finals. Got a bunch of points between the battle from Frederick Aasbo to there to catch up to Aasbo. I think Deane was in 5th place at that point in the championship, and he moved up to 3rd, while Bakchis was only 2 points behind James Deane, and then Frederick Aasbo, and then James Deane with 28 points behind. I mean, and then you got Peter Visick with the win, and he moved up a lot as well. And then you had Chris Forsberg in 5th. But,
let me ask you something. What would have been? Let's just go as what would have been your reaction to the thought of? Because for those of you who may or may not know, we follow Formula One. There's been some events where the teammates will get orders from their manager, I guess you could say, the team leader, basically dictating, okay, well, you're gonna take the win and you gotta fall back. So, like, for instance, the guy that's like second best, in Lauren championship points, he'll be told, and he's in the front, he'll be told to fall back to let the other guy take the win. So, what would be your opinion, your reaction, if, let's say, they were to sort of be like, oh, James Deane needs to win this to go higher in the championship points. Pieter, we need you to back off. We need you to join the top for this. How do you think people would react to that?
Wow, that would ruin a lot of the excitement of drifting. I mean, it's still, in my opinion, one of the more pure forms of motorsport. Although there's a lot of politics involved from what we see, but it takes away from the fact that everybody knows is that everybody's driving as hard as they can, and they're pushing to win, and that would hurt the sport. I understand Formula One. There's millions and billions of dollars invested into that, but with a sport like drifting, where it's just all about the enjoyment for the fans and fun for the drivers and all that, it to me, I think it would hurt the sport. I think people would see that as like a very big negative. People already see it as a big negative in Formula One. I remember years ago, Rubens Barrichello had to back down for Michael Schumacher. I was mad about that. And we've seen it with other teams as well. And to me, it's like, let them race. Let them. Your second place guy who wants to win it too, man. Run it. But that's how I see it.
I think part of the reason why I bring it up is because obviously this was a unique situation that doesn't really occur often, but it did, and it could have been a situation that would have been whoa, going down. Oh, gotta pay attention. Oh, I'm stuck. It could have been exploited by the team for their benefit. Now, obviously they saw no need to do that, but you touched on something that's already an issue, and that is that you have drivers doing things that are a detriment to the sport, such as
Right.
what Forsberg did. So who's to say that they're not going to sort of up the ante or do something else that is beneficial to them, but is detrimental to the sport overall? Because obviously, the people that know that are true fans are very vocal about
Yeah.
these issues that occur, that rise up. And when it happens again, or better yet, when there's no action taking place from the higher ups that allows the repeat offenders to make the same, not mistakes, but to make the same, I guess you could say, actions. I mean, who's to stop these guys from coming up with the next problem, next issue that's gonna like cause people to just flip out.
Right, and we also got to look at the fan base as well. Formula One has, I would say, a lot more casual fans, in the sense that most of the people that watch Formula One are not involved in that sport, or maybe not even involved in any motorsport.
Mm-hmm.
They just like watching Formula One, whereas something like drifting or Formula D, in to be specific, we're talking about people that are watching. Most of these people do drift or participate at drift events in some capacity or another, or even have been involved in pro drifting somehow, because of how tight the drift community is compared to other motorsports. So I mean, when we're talking about that kind of fan base, we are much more in tune with what's going on, with what we're seeing. We know exactly what we should be seeing from these drivers.
Yeah.
So I mean, if Team Orders came up, or or like the situations with Forsberg, we catch it real quick. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, fans of other motorsports would just be like, oh, that was just this happened and Chelsea screwed up. Because they wouldn't know as much. Okay, this RX-7 is kind of throwing me off here a little bit.
It's like he's trying to tell you, show me what you got.
Show me what you got. So I mean, I think we're more in tune with what's going on than other fans are of other motorsports, and it's just, and it makes it so much harder for us to watch if things like this continue happening. Oh geez, what am I doing here? So yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Cool. All right. So with Seattle out of the way, we're gonna jump into St. Louis. And this year, St. Louis offered a new track layout. Apparently, the track owners. Well, I don't know if they got together with the event organizers of Formula Drift to figure something out, but they basically laid down some new asphalt for the drifting, and I have to say, in my opinion, I really like the new track layout, and because in many ways it's a lot different from some of the other tracks that we've seen already, and it doesn't seem like too crazy. And I say that because
Yeah.
you have some tracks that it's like you need high power, high speed, and crazy high skill in order to be able to drift it properly. And this one it does not seem that way. Obviously, you gotta worry about some things like the wall and yeah, just the wall and like the setting yourself up for the final turn. But for the most part, it doesn't seem too ridiculous. So I like that about it. It's a good, for me. I feel like it's a good way for both amateur and pro drivers to sort of battle it out with one another. Uh, know your thoughts?
Uh, New track layout was cool. I'll be 100% honest. I was a fan of last year's layout because of the speed. Last year they were entering at about 110 miles an hour, and they were keeping up to the track about 80 miles an hour for most of it. Oh snap! What am I doing? So that was very exciting to watch. Now this track though, what I did like about it was the new challenges that it presented itself, because you're coming out of a hairpin turn into a very, very wide turn going in the same direction that you just came out of, and you have to have the right line and start building your momentum at the right time to make it all the way through, especially with the line that they're looking for. So it was a great challenge for the drivers. It was technical, yes, but it wasn't overly complicated either. So I think it helped put a good show for the from the drivers, and also because of the location, it had better seating, better spectator
Viewpoint.
viewing. Yeah, yeah, because last year, even though to me the track would be arguably better, it was kind of hard for the spectators to watch because of the seating position. But it was a good track. It was a great track. Now, when you look at the map of the track, you'll be like, "Oh, that's a simple track." But then when you start counting, like start thinking about like where they were placing clipping points and touch and goes, then you're like, okay, this track is a lot more complicated, to drive than what I'm actually seeing. So it was pretty interesting, pretty interesting, and I enjoyed it overall.
Now, we may have enjoyed it, but I don't think the drivers in Pro 2 enjoyed the qualifying part of it, especially at night when you had close to no lighting being placed on the track. I mean, we were looking at the video and we're like, okay, all we see are two headlights. That's it. Just going around the track. And how the heck are these people gonna get scored? And I mean, the judges came up with numbers, and if I was basing my judging just on the replays alone of the cameras, I don't think I would have been able to. I don't think I would have been able to give out a score I would have felt confident with.
Agreed. Yeah, it was really weird. I don't think they were counting on it being so dark, or I think they were also counting on, all right, the stadium lights would light up that part of the track, and it did not. It only lit up the oval part of the track. Excuse me. That was weird. So I mean, they ran into that issue and they had to keep the show going. Were they giving out scores? Yes. Were they accurate? I don't think they were very accurate, because the scores, as it got darker, the scores started going up. And I was like, well, how do they know that the drivers are doing that much better? And how are the drivers doing that much better when they can't see where they're going? Especially when their headlights are pointing away from where they're driving.
Yeah.
So, it was a little crazy. It was entertaining to watch because it was like, man, these guys are brave because they're still sending it, 100%. And but as far as like keeping it fair, I don't know. I didn't like that part of it, not one bit.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I mean, I just felt like I kind of expected these guys to just install some rally headlights or some off-road light strips just to help them out, because sheesh, it was just bad. It was just straight up bad.
Oh, it was just unexpected. So I mean, they didn't know what to prepare for. They had never run that track at that time.
Yeah, talking about unexpected. Was Adam LZ's performance unexpected?
Yes and no. Well, I mean, number one qualifier was the unexpected part. I think he's an excellent driver, but he's never really shown much promise in that car or in that level of competition. But almost spun, kept it. Thank you. Anyway, but when you saw him drive, especially that first qualifying run, wow, that was pretty impressive. And the car itself almost looks like it's out of place in Pro 2. It looks like it needs to be in Pro with its performance. But then, no, it wasn't expected due to what happened in their top 16. He went up against, who did he go up against? Oh yeah, he went up against Dustin Miles. Another guy I really like his car, is what it is. So anyway, but he went up against Dustin Miles, and on Adam's lead run, I mean, he left Dustin behind really bad. And I mean, and perfect lead run, it was great. But then when it came to the chase, I was telling Sean when he was watching with me, I'm like, watch, he's gonna get choked up behind him, and he did, because Dustin's car is not very fast. And when you see the way Adam was approaching Dustin, it was like, oh no, it's too fast. What is he going to do here? And he started getting choked up. He straightened out, because the car was going too slow around that corner, so it threw him too far inside. He had to straighten out. Then, as he approaches him again at the final corner, he goes super wide, almost as if to avoid running into Dustin. But I'll say, yes, there is progress. Adam is obviously doing better, and we'll see what comes up next in Texas.
Well, for me it was unexpected, but for the opposite reasons. Kind of expected him to beat himself in the qualifying, so I didn't really expect him to be able to make it to the show. So for me, I was surprised that he made it, which was like, oh, okay, good. And looking at his qualifying run, I was like, oh, well, this looks promising. Okay, all right, I'll roll with it. So when it finally came down for him to run, I was like, okay, the qualifying's one thing, the competition is another. First run goes through, I'm like, okay, there's definitely, there's nothing as of yet to convince me otherwise that he can go on to victory. But when the positions changed and he did what he did, I was like, ah, there we go. That that's when he showed me where I had my doubts, where I felt that you know, where I felt that it's like, okay, maybe he still needs to do some more competitions. Because in many ways,
Right, yeah.
I mean, I just think back to like Chelsea, who Denofa, who did like he ran like multiple series, multiple competitions before he got into Formula Drift, but the time that he entered it, he was pretty well battle tested.
Yeah.
So, who won Pro 2? Dustin Miles, right? Or
No, it was Alec Robbins in the 350Z. It was a good driver. And he did really solid in his battles.
yeah. I think one thing, the other thing that I want to highlight right quick is the amount of BMWs in Pro 2. It's quite surprising when you take into account that I mean, not that long ago, it's a BMW would have not crossed anybody's mind to take it to professional drifting.
Right. Well, I mean, things have changed, and of course, these guys aren't on the highest of budgets. The BMW does provide a chassis that, with the right modifications, is very, very competitive. They provide lots of grip, and with very little effort. And there's mods out there for them, and it's got a good enough aftermarket, and it's just good, easy car to work on. Considering the other options out there. I mean, I hate to say this, but even a 350Z, which would be my choice, due to or a G35, because they're so basic, so cheap right off the bat and everything. They're a little more complicated, and there's more tech, more things to go wrong. The only thing is that, well, a BMW is a BMW. They just don't, not as reliable as a Nissan, which is weird to say, but
oh boy.
But yeah, it is what it is. Not trying to start any arguments here, but but there's a reason why all these BMWs are swapped with LSs and JZs. So,
well, not all of them. I mean, there was I think one or two cars at least were still running the a BMW engine of some sort.
Right, AJ Muss, the ex-Olympic athlete. That was a BMW engine in there, and then if you could move over to Pro, obviously Michael Essa. He runs the S54 on turbo, which that's been a very solid platform for him. He's only had, from what I remember, 1 or 2 engine failures, and he's been running that since 2013.
Sheesh.
So, yeah, so obviously, if you know what you're doing, BMWs aren't that bad, but usually when you buy a BMW secondhand, you're buying a piece of garbage. So,
but on the bright side, the values of used BMWs are pretty low, so you can really take advantage of a lot of good deals, because just people out there just either A, don't know much about BMWs, or B, they just feel that it's just too expensive to own and maintain, and they just want to get rid of it as fast as possible.
which is funny. It's not really that expensive to maintain. People just get rid of them because they have this thought in their head which isn't even true. I mean, yeah, is it more expensive to own than a Toyota or Nissan or Honda? Absolutely, but it's not like out of reach either. And when you really start working on them, you realize how easy they are to work on. So, but then when you do buy one secondhand and you buy it off of somebody that didn't know these things, and they didn't fix anything because they thought it was going to cost them too much money, it was too complicated to work on, and well, now you got lots of rolling junkyards. On this, it's sad because really, when you look at the engines themselves, they're pretty bulletproof, man. I mean, you can beat the crap out of them, and they run good, but people just don't maintain them, so then you run into problems every time you buy a used one. But I know several people that have bought them with good success, and it's still a solid platform. It's just if I had to choose something else that's been beat up, I will.
Yeah. So there's more with Pro 2, but I think those are some of the major points we wanted to highlight regarding the event. But I think overall, for the most part, like for me, I was pleased with the way how the drivers handled it. It seemed like even though their cars weren't at the pro level, they still managed to put on a good show with what they had.
Right.
So let's go into the Pro 1? Pro? What's the category? Pro 1 or just Pro?
It's just Pro.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the Pro class. And let's begin with Chris Forsberg again, who, as we mentioned before, and how in Seattle was up to some, many would call some dirty tactics against Chelsea, and it just so happens in this event, Forsberg goes up against Chelsea's teammate Von Gittin. Now, Von Gittin, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say before he went against Von Gittin, he went up against Austin Meeks, which is on his second year in Pro. So obviously he went up. Austin Meeks is in the Cadillac ATSV. He doesn't have the experience that Forsberg does, and Forsberg, let's be real, he plays the game very well. And
well, not anymore, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's caught up to him. But the thing is that what happened here is that Forsberg was like, hey, I got some success using these tactics. In the previous event, I'm going to continue on with this. And at the final hairpin before the final in a clip, it was an acceleration area, and he would just ride it out with no acceleration. He somehow, without accelerating, he kept the car in drift with angle, but it was just slowing down the whole time. And Austin Meeks just ran into the back of him and spun out. And that was the end of Meeks. But everybody saw it. There was no tire smoke coming out of the car until after he got hit once again. So it was disappointing to see that, and to see that the judges gave the win to Austin Meeks. But payback was coming. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Those minis, I tell you.
Yeah.
Always at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. So go ahead with what you were.
Yeah, I had completely forgotten about it because I sort of oh shoot, I had missed out on the top 32 section of the competition. and jumped right into top 16, and I saw that Von Gittin, Chelsea's teammate, was going up against Chris Forsberg, and now Von Gittin has been no stranger to making contact with other people's cars. He even earned the nickname one year as Mr. Plow, because he would famously plowed into Daigo Saito's car amongst the vehicles that he made contact with.
Yep.
So I was curious to see how this battle was going to turn out, and I got to tell you, Von Gittin did not disappoint, because when it came down to this same section that Hibino pointed out, where Forsberg likes to execute his dirty tricks, Von Gittin was having none of it and decided to just help Forsberg, help him by pushing him across the line. I guess he felt that Forsberg was having some car issues, so he was just like, "Oh, here, let me help your car cross the finish line. Let me allow my more powerful, reliable Ford to help your Nissan go through." I think it's a good marketing strategy for. I think it's a good marketing campaign for Ford to capitalize on. But it really, the ball's on their court. So, what was your reaction to what unfolded on that battle?
Well, what happened there was probably my favorite thing of the entire event. So hang on, let me get adjusted here. So I mean, we were like, all right, here we go. Forsberg's coming up again. But then at the same time, I was like, well, this is his Drift Alliance teammate. You know, this is his buddy. They've been best friends for 20-something years now. So I'm like, maybe he won't do it to him. And maybe Von will try to go easy on Forsberg. And Von had none of it. None of it. It was just unreal. What happened was, everything was pretty standard up until that last corner, and you just see Forsberg just slow down, and Von just stomped on it, and it was so crazy. It was so crazy. I mean, he just stomped on it, pushed him through, caused damage to Forsberg's car, and yet they deemed Forsberg was at fault because he was not on throttle. Finally, the judges had enough.
Yeah.
They found a situation where they could finally nail this guy for doing what he's been doing all these other events. Not only that, but I also like to see it as Von was like, man, you know what? I'm siding with my boy Chelsea. I know he's not Drift Alliance. I know I haven't known him as long, but you know what? That's my teammate right there, and I'm gonna stick with him. And yeah, he just let Forsberg know, you gotta stop playing these games. I ain't taking this crap.
Yeah.
So, I've always liked that about Von. The fact that he just drives the way he wants to drive, and yeah, sometimes it helps and sometimes it hurts him, but he's always entertaining to watch because he's always gonna push. So
yeah, he definitely pushed in this battle, all right. When it mattered most. I think many people felt that they were like, finally the judges got some prescription glasses and could now clearly see what we've all been seeing, and did something about it.
Right. Um, well, I mean, I was happy with it, you know, because I was getting tired of the Forsberg antics, as mostly everybody that watches FD was as well, and we finally got some payback. You know, it was definitely the highlight. You know what? I'm not gonna say it was the highlight of the event for me, but it was my favorite part. It was my favorite part.
Justice was served.
But yeah, but I think we can talk about the highlight of the event now, if you'd like.
Well, what is that, sir?
All right. Well, there was a situation where Matt Coffman
Oh,
had
yeah.
to call a competition timeout, and I believe it was against James Deane. So, but anyway,
Well,
that detail doesn't matter.
no, but
So,
well, before I wanted to get into that, I wanted to just talk about how, uh, talking about Vaughn and hitting Forsberg intentionally to just push him out of the way. Vaughn's teammate, Chelsea, inadvertently hit Matt Field, which caused some damage to Matt Field's car, and obviously gave Matt Field the win. But strangely enough, the damage, I mean, it did not seem significant. What happened was Chelsea was chasing Matt Field, and Chelsea being Chelsea, like I mentioned before, very aggressive, very close, and he was pushing hard. But
right.
during the first transition, Chelsea was pushing too closely, and it just so happens that when Matt Field's car was rotating, it made contact with Chelsea's car, and in turn caused a pretty significant, well, I wouldn't say significant, but it caused a great deal of damage to Matt Field's rear end. And what happened was Matt Field couldn't continue, and Matt Field was given the win. And all Matt Field needed to do was just get his car back up and running for the next battle. Now, luckily for Matt Field, the next battle was about, I don't know, 2-3 battles ahead. So he had a good amount of time to just get his car back together in one piece. But with the way how his car sustained the damage, it prompted him to do some work on his rear axle. Now something I learned. I don't know if E6 already knew this, but apparently the rear axle on the Chevy Corvettes are pretty tricky to work on, to do any sort of major repairs on it. And when it came time to have Matt Field go against his competitor in his battle, his car wasn't ready. So he had to call a competition timeout. The 5-minute mark was set, and his crew tried desperately to get the car back in working order. And it just so happened that it just did not work out for him, and he could not, and he got eliminated for something that was clearly out of his hands, and it was just really sad, really unfortunate to see him go through that struggle and to see that unfortunate end.
Yeah.
After trying desperately to just get his car fixed. But some may say that, if he wouldn't have gone with such a unique platform, he wouldn't have gone through this trouble to get the car going. Because if it was an S15, if it was a Nissan or a BMW, then it perhaps would have been a lot simpler for him to get his car back up and going again. But who knows?
Which I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can agree with that. I mean, if he would have been back in the 240 that Pat's now driving, that axle would have been very easy to replace. He wouldn't even have probably needed a competition timeout because he would have been able to do it during the allotted time between battles. It was very unfortunate that Chelsea did that because his lead run was, well, probably one of the best lead runs I've seen all weekend. And then watching him initiate and drive up to Matt Field's door, I was like, oh, you know, he's about to take it. Unfortunately, you know, that situation happened. And at first, I was like, no, there's no way that this could be Chelsea's fault. You know, it wasn't that big of a hit. You know, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. But then when you look closely at Matt Field's wheel, you can see some of Chelsea's paint, you know, scuff marks on it. And then, according to the FD judges, there was some damage on Chelsea's car from that hit. So it was enough. It was enough to cause a problem to Matt Field, which is why I wasn't exactly mad about the call.
Well, actually, hold on. Full disclosure. Sorry to cut you off, but at the time of the viewing, we all were very skeptical. We all had our doubts because it just did not seem like a significant hit. And when the judges were already siding with Matt Field, we called that into question because, again, from our point of view, from initial impressions, we're like, okay, that does not make any sense. But as soon as they highlighted, they pointed out that Chelsea's Denofa's car sustained damage. That for us was the deciding factor of us determining, okay, yeah, then it's not what we originally think.
No, exactly. And oh, that's traffic there.
Yeah.
I forgot it doesn't ghost until after you get into the drift zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was where I was like, okay, the call makes sense. Mm-hmm. You know, and I appreciated that from the judges to make sense of the situation. So, and you know, and we could tell that Chelsea, that wasn't his intention. He wasn't trying to mess up anybody's weekend. In fact, after Matt couldn't get his car fixed, you saw him sit down with his head down, and Chelsea came up to him, you know, apologizing for the situation and everything. You know, so it's not like there's hate or anything between them.
Yeah.
So it was good to see that. But yeah.
But obviously.
The whole.
But well, you were gonna say something else about Matt Field's situation.
Just saying, as far as the whole unique platform thing, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Corvettes are incredible chassis for drifting. They've been proving that for the last couple of years now, how good of a platform that is. But then you start running into problems where it wasn't really built for that kind of thing. Where, oh, sorry, I don't know why I forgot he was in a ghost car. This guy just joined us. Anyway, but as far as, you know, doing that, I mean, it goes to show, like, choosing the car you're going to compete in is a huge factor in winning a championship or, you know, not being able to run.
Yeah.
You know, I love Corvettes. They're great cars. They obviously make great drift cars, considering what we've seen up to now in Formula D. But hey, man, when you run into a situation like that, excuse me, you know, you can't. It's hard to ask for help because nobody knows that platform like you do, or you can't be like, hey, I need some parts, you know, to another team. Sorry, dude, we don't run Corvettes.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
So
let me ask you a quick question. Do you think the Le Mans team pit crew would have been able to fix that axle in time?
possibly, but the problem is the allotted amount of time.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe the way the race car is set up would allow them to do it much quicker. But Formula D cars, while they're built like race cars, resemble street cars a lot more. So, and street cars have a lot of things to take out before you get the part that you want out, compared to race cars where they're very simplified.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about noise or, you know, comfort. So everything is just put in there raw. So, yeah, I mean,
I guess we'll never know.
It just sucks what happened. Nah, we'll never know. They wouldn't want to touch a drift car anyway. They'll be like, I don't want to get whatever disease that thing's carrying.
Well, it was unfortunate for Matt, and I'm sure he hated that clock as it was winding down to 0. But I'm sure he was happy to see that, as Matt Coffman being in almost, I want to say, in a similar predicament, where he had to scramble to get his car in working order before the clock ran out.
Right.
But luckily, Matt Coffman was able to do that in time. But oddly enough, just so happens that the person running the clock placed it right in front of his Matt Kaufman's car. So when Matt Kaufman's car dropped and took off, it just took off right in front of the countdown clock, and in turn just destroyed it. That was just
a highlight of the event.
That was just too funny.
Of the event.
And what made the situation even sweeter was just the staff official from Formula Drift just looking on with huge disappointment.
Yeah, it was crazy because they couldn't even see the amount of time that was left as the car was taking off.
Yeah.
It's number one, the car got in the way, and then after that, the clock got ran over, and so it's not like he could see if did it reach 0 or how much time is left. Yeah. It's just like, you know what, we gotta let him go because we have no way of knowing what. Oh, that's a new situation. What if there's a rule about it at the next event?
Yeah.
You know, if you run over the clock, you're eliminated. You know,
it could be. I mean, you could start seeing some of the drivers. They positions their cars so that way it has a trajectory to run over the clock.
But as I said earlier, it's a very new sport compared to the other motorsports that we've been watching for years. So there, you know, and it's a unique sport. So there's going to be a lot of situations that we've never seen before. So, but yeah, that was one of them, and I mean, it was just priceless. Best part of the event. Not my favorite part, because I love sweet revenge on Chris Forsberg. But it was the highlight of the event.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
talking about another situation that was unexpected. So JTP, who again, Mr. 100. It's disappointingly he did not score a 100 on his qualifying run. So he still has another 2 events to be able to achieve that again. So the hype is real for JTP to come through again with another 100. But when it came to his battle against Frederick Aasbo, again, just another disappointment, because as JTP was taking the lead, Aasbo with just a sudden spin out from his part, where JTP had no part in it. He was driving like he was supposed to, and Aasbo spun on his own accord. Clearly his own mistake, but what was just so I don't want to say gut wrenching. I would say, well, whoa, buddy, you're right there. You almost like fell out. Yeesh.
Had an 8-6 moment there.
Yeah, we're about to send off the Coast Guard to go scoop you up. In any case, yeah, JTP, who obviously had the advantage. All he needed to do was just cross the line, just keep driving the way how he was driving. Proceeds to spin out on his own, and it's just, oh god, I don't even know how to describe the frustration that just went through my mind as he went and did that. It's like, I'm sorry to say it, but I just felt like screaming out, "You idiot!"
Yeah, it was rough to watch, considering what we saw in the previous run, where at the final corner, the transition that he did behind Aasbo was unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
the way he drove up to Aasbo's door, throwing it backwards and holding it, and then when we saw the what happened to Aasbo on Aasbo's chase run, then we would have thought that, hey, all right, now we know he doesn't have to push the car like that. And yet, I think the line he took was the trajectory was gonna put him right on the wall. And I guess he kind of freaked out and threw it a little bit too hard and spun the car out. And it was just like gut-wrenching. Like, man, this would have been a highlight where Aasbo gets knocked out, and I think it was the top 8 at that point.
I don't recall. All I recall was me wanting to yank my hair.
Yeah, because it was like, that was it. That was it. I mean, how do you screw this up?
Yeah.
And he found a way. It was bad. It was bad. I know that the spotters usually don't like to speak to the drivers while they're driving because it's a distraction. But I mean, that should have been a moment right there, like to tell JTP, hey, take it easy, don't drive hard. Like, or at least say, Aasbo's fun, just make it to the finish. That's it, And I can't imagine what JTP was feeling after he spun out and saw that Aasbo wasn't there. Must have been like, what the heck did I just do?
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure he was like, what happened? Why is there not a car there? What's going on? Why did I spin?
Yeah.
Darn it.
Did he already pass me? What,
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing.
So.
Right now, there's more light in this game than Pro 2 qualifying.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can see everything clearly. Like that car that I just hit.
Yeah, funny. So, talking about Aasbo, he continued on to his trajectory to the final battle against the machine, James Deane. And now, okay, so I will say this. Just actually talking about it right now, the things that happened at the event. It's in some ways it was just it's a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster of emotions and expectations. And I say that because in some ways we expected the judges to sort of ignore some things and they didn't. Like for instance, what Chris Forsberg did. And in other ways, we expected the judges to, I guess, conclude on some runs a certain way, and they didn't. And I feel like with the final battle with Aasbo and James Deane, and it's sort of like what I've spoken to Hibino 86. It's like oftentimes we will score a run, and then we'll say one thing, but then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, we got to do the we got to put our Formula Drift judges thinking cap on, and then when we make that adjustment, it's like, oh, we fall more in line with what the judges are scoring. And that's what happened with the final battle for me. Now, can't recall exactly what transpired, but I will say that I saw the battle and I was like, okay, I will give it to this person, but I have my doubts because for all we know, the judges may feel differently about it and they'll be like, oh, well, we'll give it to the other guy. So I was kind of, right. And in the end, I was actually surprised that they leaned on my original conclusion.
All right. So, you know, of course, after what happened with JTP, Aasbo saves his championship lead again. Makes it all the way to the finals against James Deane. In a pretty good battle. It was pretty, I'm not going to say it was the most exciting thing I've seen all weekend. But, you know, these are the two best drivers in the series going at it. So it's always something you watch. Now, James Deane was leading. He ran a very clean lead run. Hit all his marks. Didn't have a lot of wavering through outside zone 2, which is a very hard part to get it across. Aasbo had a little straightening out.
Yeah, I remember that.
But it was real quick. Aasbo got back on angle and stayed with James Deane all the way through the run. So at that point, even though James did everything he needed to do, and Aasbo had his little bobble there, we still thought Aasbo has the advantage because of the proximity. So going into run number 2, where Aasbo was leading, Aasbo barely hit outer zone 1. He left real early and barely put his rear bumper over it anyway. So we were like, okay, this is a really bad mark for him. And then, although James Deane didn't have any wavering behind him, he fell behind a lot.
Yeah.
He fell behind a lot. And then at the last corner, he made. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
He made it back up. But in no point in Aasbo's run did Aasbo fall back, even though he had his little bobble. He stayed with Deane all the way through. So, what Ben and I were thinking was this is going to be Aasbo's win.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the... Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
A little late. I'm getting tired.
I know. We're almost done.
But, yeah. But, so, you know, they lined the drivers up. There's a decision, so they line them up in front of the judges. So we're all thinking like, okay, it's Aasbo. This is, I mean, there's no other reason. And then when they announced the winner, to everyone's surprise, James Deane. But then when after seeing the replay and analyzing everything, it made sense to why they went with James Deane. Even though Aasbo's proximity was, well, unmatched. And I was glad that they saw everything James Deane did, and you know he stuck to running a clean chase, even though it wasn't as close. And he hit all his points in his lead run. With that said, I mean, now we're at a point in the championship where there's only 1 point between number 1 and number 2, which is now, number 2 is now James Deane. He moved up another position. And we're going to see what's going to happen in Texas, because
yeehaw!
So it's going to be very interesting there in Texas, because you know, it's still a close championship race.
Not only that, everything's bigger in Texas too.
Everything is bigger in Texas. They have a very nice flowing track. It's always been exciting to watch, especially for the drivers with lots of style. They have one part where they can transition very hard and keep their momentum up, and it's very fun to watch. Another point, because of Chris Forsberg's top 16 exit and Ryan Turk's pretty successful run. I think he came in 4th, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
Well, Turk is now in 5th place, and Forsberg dropped down to 6th.
Ooh.
So there's good news for those who are not fans of Forsberg, including me.
Let me ask you, who are you a bigger fan of, Chris Forsberg or Passionate Pat Good?
Oof! Wow. That's tough.
All right, you can get back to me on that. Just think about it for the next time around. But I just want to say quickly before we completely close the chapter on the on Seattle. Bakchis, bro. What he did against Aasbo was magnifique.
Oh, Odie, yes.
Yeah, that was just that was a highlight. That was like, wow.
Yeah. Probably the best battle of the weekend. It went one more time, and it was very hard for the judges to choose. I know when they actually, since we already know that Aasbo went into the finals, when I'm pretty sure that when they had to choose Aasbo as a winner, they were having a hard time with it, because it was just wow. So the highlight of that battle was on the entry, I believe, of Odie's chase run in the one more time battle.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, it's like he channeled his inner Duke Nukem and said, "I've got balls of steel." And I was like, damn!
I mean, the way he timed it and everything. It was just like I've never seen anything like that. So just to explain a little bit of what happened, especially at that part of the track, they were running up to the first turn, to the first outer zone, and Aasbo has a let's say manji initiation, and it wasn't the heaviest manji, but it was still like noticeable. But before Aasbo was returning from the first motion of the manji, Odie already initiated and was driving the car up to where Aasbo's door was gonna be, and I can't explain how amazing that looked.
Yeah.
That it was like
we're not doing it justice.
Exact.
You have to go on YouTube and just look it up and just see it. Just scroll through all the commercials and all the other things that unfolded. Just look for the part where Odie goes up against Aasbo and just see it for yourself, because it needs to be seen and studied and dissected, because wow, just wow.
Yeah, it's the way I see it is like it's like he figured out exactly where Aasbo is gonna place his car when after he initiated, and he just timed it perfectly and placed it perfectly where it needed to be. And there's no explaining that until you see it. It was just one of the best things that I had ever seen on a chase run. Yeah, I mean, it was blown away, and you know, we were all hanging out. It was, if you guys know them, Juan the Legend, Hanau. We had Emil, phase photo there, and we had Slick Rick, a lost celebrity in the South Florida scene.
Yeah.
And you know, we've been around drifting for a long time, all of us. We've seen everything that there's to see. We were all blown away. We were just like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
It was like a magician's trick, you know? But yeah, it was sad to see Odie lose that one, because you could tell he put his heart and soul into that battle. Just to win it, but he ended up losing. And you could hear it in his interview how disappointed he was, but he gave everything, and it was amazing to watch. So yeah, Odie, if you're hearing me, which I know you're not,
wishful thinking. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
You gotta lower your expectations a bit. But what would you like to say?
I know you're not.
What would you like to say to Odie?
No, I would like to say, wow, you definitely got my respect on after seeing that. So, but yeah.
And on that note, we're gonna wrap things up. We want to thank you for tuning in, listening in, watching. Not only our tandems, but also to our thoughts about the Formula Drift events. And we hope to catch you next time, where we discuss Formula Drift competition over at Texas. We're hoping it to be...
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it'll be good and exciting. But I'm sure with all of that excitement, it's going to have its own sense of drama. But we'll be there to cover it, discuss it, dissect it, and give you our thoughts and opinions regarding all matters. But again, thanks for listening. We will hope to catch you next time. Peace out.
Adios.